Alrighty, we have returned. we have returned. We have returned. And making sure we are not double sharing. All right. Let's go back to, hopefully you can see. Let me advance the slide a bit. To jump back into our conversation about the Master Grant Blueprint template and how it has been designed as a more than a grant readiness ecosystem or system, if you will, for nonprofit founders, executive directors, those that sit on the grant writing team. Notice the language that I am using: grant writing team. Grant writing should not happen in a silo. Often we are finding, and particularly in smaller nonprofits, where you have one individual who is solely responsible for writing grants. And sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be a challenging thing to the staff, because once that individual begins their writing session or begins to take time from their day-to-day responsibilities to give their sole attention to meeting a particular deadline, then what we find is that person has their door closed, they're not accessible, they have some type of sign up that says they're in the middle of writing a grant, or they're not in the office. And so while other day-to-day operations are going on, no one is able to access the grant writer because they're trying to meet a deadline. So again, which is why it's not a good thing for grants to be written by one individual within a nonprofit organization. It's different if you have to third-party source your grant writing to a professional grant writer, someone who may or may not work in a silo, but still that person isn't working in a silo because they're collaborating with you and your team to get a grant application or respond to an RFP. So again, that's why the Master Grant Blueprint template is designed as an ecosystem, so that everyone has a role in assisting with completing the template, and the template then becomes something that is on everyone's desktop, because the template can either be digital, or it is a digital product. First of all, let me say that. And then it is also something that you can download and print out so that everyone has a copy of it on their desk, or again, a digital link to it on their desktop. And as you write in the template, it automatically updates, across your system. So if someone is writing, say for example, if the program officer is writing in the goals and SMART objectives for a particular grant, then that Master Grant Blueprint is updating, so that for example, if the case manager or the executive director an hour later decides to come and sit down and put their input in on the template, they can see the changes that have been made by the program manager as it relates to the goals and objectives. For example, if the executive director wants to come in and plug in information about the history of the nonprofit, and or include the mission and vision statement in the Master Grant Blueprint template, it is something that is going to update live, while everybody, or not everybody simultaneously, is working in it, but you'll be able to see those changes. Okay. Again, this is also designed for success so that you are able to um, get funded the first time, because the template is designed to extract from those working in the programs on a day-to-day basis how you are serving your target audience, who is your target audience, and able to load in that real-time data of how are you assisting your target audience to advance in what it is that you said that you were going to do. So, for example, let's stay with our back to school theme, and we will expound more on that too next week with our back to school theme, our back to school scenario. So, it's back to school time generally across the United States of America. Everybody is in back to school mode if they are already back in the classroom working. So your nonprofit decided to have a back to school resource fair. Note what I just stated, back to school resource fair. So you're not just to provide resources to underserved families in your particular neighborhood. And with that, the vision for the back to school resource fair was not so just your nonprofit would operate in a silo and just be the one solely giving out, say, backpacks, but you invited to the table other community partners. Maybe you invited a couple of barbers or a couple of beauticians to the resource fair. Maybe you invited a couple of department stores to the resource fair so that they could give out a certain number of free school uniforms, and outfitting children for those first 30 days or at least up to Thanksgiving with clothing items. Maybe you decided to partner with your local eyewear provider, the local dentist, and you decided to come together and have a resource fair as well as other community partners, Department of Children Family Services, maybe even the school district had a parent or family engagement officer or official that they could send out to the resource fair just to answer questions for families and caregivers and guardians on what it is that they need to do to get their children ready to go back to school. And in addition, you were going to be giving out school supplies. So that was your ultimate goal. That's what you were looking to secure monies from the local funder. Say it was a private foundation in your area that was looking for someone to spear up the back to school resource fair. And so then what the Master Grant Blueprint template would be designed to do is to tell your community story around the resource fair. Excuse me. Saying, number one, why there's a need for a resource fair, who would be participating in that, who would be some of the recipients, like the number of families you would hope to reach. Say you wanted to target 50 families, 50 to 100 families in in your neighborhood for the resource fair, and have these other community partners kind of let families know what they needed to navigate the terrain for returning back to school. And so with that, you're not only identifying the number of families, but you're also telling a little bit about the family stories, where you would say maybe 50 to 75% of the families that would be attending the resource fair are at the federal poverty line, income line, telling a little bit of their stories, how many children under the age of 18 or school age children that you were looking to target to bring to the resource fair, or that would be attending the resource fair, and how many book packs you expect to give out, how many uniforms you expect to give out, how many connections you expect to make. So all of these things are your outcomes, if you will, or your objectives for um, spearheading the back to school resource fair in the first place. And what you want to say is the master grant template guides you in providing you with specific language to say that you are reducing. The point of the resource fair is so that there will be an increase in the number of children that return to school on the first day of school for those, at least for consistently for those first 30 to 45, 60 days of school, because the resource fair is going to remove barriers to children having access to going back to school by providing them with what? School supplies, uniforms, access to health care, access to seeing an optician, an access to seeing a dentist, because oftentimes families feel like if their children, they don't have their glasses, they lost their glasses over the summer, so there's no sense of urgency, if you will, to get them to return to school because, well, they're not coming to school till they can get their glasses. But at the school back to school resource fair, you're saying that your nonprofit is going to have one or two opticians, that's going to be able to provide X amount of number, maybe 10 free eye exams to families. And as a result of that, be able to provide, if the child needs glasses, 10 free pairs of glasses to families from one optician. And the other optician says, I can do the eye exam if they will do the glasses, right? So that's removing a barrier or addressing barriers that children experience at the beginning of the school year that delays their attendance. So the overall goal is to, again, remove barriers for access to the first 60 to 45 days of school and increase school attendance. All right. So the Master Grant Blueprint template is designed to help you write all of that out. Identify your community partners, even list who they are. Find out what the cost is going to be. Where is the back to school resource fair going to be held? Who's going to be the host? Is it going to be on a location that's along the bus line that's easy for families to get to? The grant template is also designed to help you spell out how are you going to let families know about the back to school resource fair. Are you going to use social media? Are you going to create several flyers and paper the neighborhood with those flyers? Or are you going to ask your community partners that are going to be a part of the resource fair to share flyers from their different locations? Will it be a door knock, a grassroots, your outreach team? Perhaps you have an outreach team at your nonprofit and you're going to go knock on doors of the last known addresses of school-aged children and let them know about the resource fair and leave them flyers. So the grant blueprint template is designed to help you think through all of that. So again, as you complete your grant application, you get funded the first time. The grant blueprint template is also designed to be part of your master file that a nonprofit should have on file. We talked about that at last Wednesday's workshop. What are those essential documents that are needed to go in our master file so that we have this these documents ready to go every time we sit down and get ready to compete for grant dollars and complete a grant application. We invited you to visit the website www.advantagegrants.com and take advantage of the free download for the grant readiness checklist that helps you to begin to compile your master file. We also suggested to you that the master file is a hard copy file of 2 binders that one should be either the executive director should have, most definitely your administrative assistant or your admin should have a hard copy of that file, and most definitely if you have a professional grant writer on site, they should have a hard copy of the file. And we recommended the file being updated if not every other month, at least quarterly, taking the time to keep your documents current, particularly if you are a nonprofit that aggressively goes after grants throughout the year. All right. So the master grant blueprint template ultimately becomes a part of your master file that your nonprofit has on file. And that master file, at your leisure or convenience, can be turned into a digital file, something that again can be circulated throughout the nonprofit organization in the event that someone else, another team is assembled to write a grant. Then you can just click and download the documents that you need out of the master file to attach to a grant application. So again, we invite you to visit the website www.advantagegrants.com. Free download of the grant readiness template. It is there for your download, your printing, for you to have to prepare yourself to what we call get and stay grant ready. All right. So now we want to dive into the, let me come out of this, stop sharing my screen. This technology will allow me to stop sharing my screen. And we want to get into the one of the first sections of the master grant template for you to take a look. One moment to look at that first section. What are some of the questions being asked of your organization from the master grant template, so that you can begin, so that you understand what your investment is. And bear with me. I apologize. This should have been up on my deck, ready to go for you. Here we are. Let's see if this is it. Let's go back. Nope, that's not it. Apologies for the technical difficulties. One moment. I hope that we are still live. Did I knock myself out? Okay, no, we're still there. One moment. Okay, let's see if this is it. One moment. We apologize. Okay, here we are. We want to share with you the uniqueness of the master grant template, why this is unique for nonprofit individuals. Let me go back to sharing my screen, or nonprofit business entities. Okay. And hopefully you're able to share. Okay. And let me just enlarge this a little bit. Now, a couple of selling points for you. Oftentimes we get questions from emerging nonprofits that are looking for grants to fund their mission, vision, or just fund their overall organization. And with the master grant proposal template, it has been specifically designed for emerging nonprofits in the first 5 years, because within the first 5 years, you are doing a lot of growth and development and learning who you are, learning more about your target audience, and learning more about your day-to-day functions. So one of the things that we've been able to do is specifically focus just on that, on what's happening in the first 5 years of a nonprofit. And so with this master grant blueprint proposal template, it features a case study organization. We present you with an organization that's in its maybe first 5 years of business. And the name of that organization is fictitious organization, but they have very similarities to emerging nonprofits. And that organization is Greystone Community Development Corporation. We have listed here just a little bit about who they are. They were established in 2018. They're in Upper Manhattan, New York. Their flagship program is the Employment Readiness Project. All right. They have an annual operating budget of $2.5 million. And we list here the co-founders, Sonia Gray and Kathy Stone, hence Greystone Community Development Corporation. All right. So the first section is explicit instructions on how your nonprofit will use the Master Grant Blueprint template. Again, its purpose and how you will go about using it. Now, let me say this before we scroll any more to talk about this in this particular section, this particular segment of the Master Grant Blueprint template. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied. But let me just be clear about this. So this is not necessarily an AI situation. What I say to my new startup nonprofit clients is that if you're not interested in taking the time to read, if you're not a reader, if you're not a writer, if you are not a responder to information that requires you to read and write, then this investment is not for you. The Master Grant Blueprint template is not an investment for your organization, because in order to tell your story, you need to be able to write it. You need to take your vision, have written your vision, and kind of write it out. It's also part of your elevator pitch so that you can share with prospective funders within 2 minutes. For example, with this, what is the Employment Readiness Project? Who does it serve? And why should we support you? And again, it takes time for all of that to happen in order for you to capture what it is that you need to capture, so that you can articulate that in writing to funders. All right. So it says here again, how to use this template is designed specifically for nonprofits in their first 5 years of operation. Each section follows the structure that most local government agencies, city, county, and state, require for RFPs or for grant application. So we're telling you what's inside, what you will find in each section. A section overview, you'll find how your grant readiness checklist ties to that section, like why is it asking you for these documents. You're also going to find a case study example that we just said, the Employment Readiness Project by Greystone CDC, and your turn. It's inviting you fill in the prompts. And so it's guided sentence starters and prompts so that you can draft your own content with confidence so that you can begin to tell your story. And so coming from the lens of an educator, and that is not only pre-K through 12 education, but teacher education preparation programs, is how we have the your turn fill in the prompt section for you. And then we say tips for success, insider guidance on what makes each section stand out to reviewers. Now let me pause about and just say a little bit about that particular sentence. So when you are completing a grant application, you are writing to the reviewer. You are not writing to check your own boxes or boast and tell your story. You are writing to the reviewer, which is also known in the RFP document as the scoring rubric. You are writing to satisfy the scoring rubric. They don't care about how many children you have, the color of your eyes, how much is in your bank account, your passion that came out of this. If it's not listed in the scoring rubric, that is what your story is being written to. That scoring rubric, that reviewer, the individual that's going to score your grant application for funding. So that's important to note. So we give tips for success where, again, insider guidance on what makes each section stand out to reviewers. Because, again, this is the same guide and template that we've used to be able to secure over $25 million for our clients, whether it was in education, whether it was in housing, whether it was in securing government contracts for services that a for-profit business wanted to start. This is a proven tool that we have been meticulous about putting together so that you could experience success and get funded the first time. All right. So the next we kind of talk about the case study organization. I just kind of talked about giving you a little background on our case study, Greystone Community Development Corporation. It was incorporated 2018. Who the founders are, it says they're two former IBM software engineers that committed to closing the opportunity gap for underserved or underrepresented communities. Their flagship program, the Employment Readiness Project, serves low-income adults ages 18 to 25 in Upper Manhattan. So you know it's fictitious because Upper Manhattan, New York generally doesn't have low-income adults between the age of 18 to 25 in Upper Manhattan. Most 18 to 25-year-olds in Upper Manhattan, New York are trust fund babies. So again, this is a fictitious organization, but we were able to, again, put framework around it because you need a case study to show you how we're going to use this idea, this program, to complete a grant application or to build a story around a grant to present to a funder. So it says Greystone CDC operates with a $2.5 million annual budget, and it partners with citywide agencies, employers, and training institutions to deliver, listen to the language here, measurable workforce outcomes, which is what we were talking to you about with the back to school resource fair. You have to have measurable outcomes, number of families, number of children, number of book bags given out, number of community partners, number of school uniforms given out, number of haircuts given out. Those are measurable outcomes. So there's a suggestion here that says before you begin, now we talked about tying in the grant readiness checklist. Complete your grant readiness assessment before starting any section. Gather your mission, vision, and value statements in writing before drafting. Have your most recent IRS Form 990 or 990N and tax exempt letter ready. Know your target population. Have at least 2 to 3 data points to document the need. Again, if we stay with the back to school resource fair, what is the need? And the need in that particular community, if you will, was to be able to reduce the barriers or remove the barriers or address the barriers of low school attendance in the first 60 days of school. And in that, to increase the number of students who attend school the first 60 days of school. All right, so 2 to 3 data points that you need about your target population. Who is the target population here? Children, school-age children going back to school in your particular area. So we have 2 or 3 data points about our target population. So you need this before you sit down to start writing your grant application. You need this information. You shouldn't have to be doing the scrambling because 75% of grant writing is preparation. Okay? 75% of effective, successful grant writing is preparing before you sit down to write the grant application. Identify your key program staff and their qualifications before writing section 3. Again, these are some tips before you begin. And then it says confirm all statistics cited are no more than 5 years old. So now let's talk about the one bullet point about your program staff and their qualifications. So you would like to have some type of bio or resume and certifications or credentials about your staff and how they're qualified to work in these particular areas that you are looking for funding. And note that it says key program staff, because all of your staff may not necessarily work the back to school resource fair, okay, or work on the employment readiness staff. So your key staff, those staff that will be working at least 80% of the time on the project for which you are seeking funding. All right. Now, then here's another sneak peek or the look on the inside of the master grant proposal template. We start with section 1. All right. And just kind of laying out for you the format of what this looks like. So you have your executive summary. We ask you to spend time on that. It said this is the first section that reviewers read. Note that. It says this is the first section that reviewers read. We have that confirmed from state and county reviewers, and often the most influential. This lets them know if they're going to read your application any further. So you, in the executive summary, you want to be able to get and keep the reviewers' attention so that they are not distracted and just quickly go through your application, because there's been no attention grabbing thing in your executive summary to pique their attention. It should be compelling, concise snapshot, maybe 1 to 2 pages maximum. Now, each grant application is different. So we said 1 to 2 pages maximum. Some grant applications only want 1 page of an executive summary. Some grant applications only want 2 paragraphs. It's called an abstract. They only want 2 paragraphs of your executive summary. All right. And that's all about the entire proposal. So it just depends. Every grant application is different. All right. But a concise snapshot, 1 to 2 pages maximum of your entire proposal, who you are, what problem you address, how your program responds, what you aim to achieve, and why are you the right organization to do it. Now, it's been our training to say we write this section last after all of the other sections have been completed. Sometimes you can write it first because you already know who you are and you know what you're going to address, how your program responds, what you aim to achieve, and why you're the right organization to do it. Okay? Now, with this first section of this master grant proposal template, if you will, I'm showing to you how it happens, like up here, like with what we just said. The section overview, how it ties to the grant readiness checklist, and so how everything flows. All right. So you see the next part of this section 1 of this executive summary, we refer you immediately to the grant readiness checklist for alignment. And it says your organization, name, address, phone, web address, have that. Have your mission and vision and value statement, your years established and structure confirmed, your current programs and services in narrative format, a brief 3 to 5 sentence about the current programs and services that your nonprofit offers if you offer more than one service. The number of individuals you served in the previous year, documented. So that's how have you tracked the number of people that you've served and those outcomes. The executive director or co-director's bio or resume available. Didn't say you need to have it as it relates to in the executive summary, but it needs to be available. Your IRS tax exempt letter, we said that earlier, and most IRS Form 990, most recent, Form 990 or 990N filed and available. All right. So this column says, what is your status? And the employment readiness project example that we're providing, this says that they have all of those sections and they are part of their master file. So they're checking this off and being in terms of being grant ready for this proposal that they're submitting. All right. Now, here's the example that we said we provide for each section. Case study example. Here again is more of a stretch out or pull out of their executive summary. The Employment Readiness Project is a dynamic workforce development initiative rooted in the heart of Upper Manhattan. Notice how they go right into their mission. Our mission is clear: to equip low-income residents, especially young adults, identifying saying young adults, say, then putting a number around those young adults, age 18 to 25, with what? Tools, training, and confidence they need to secure meaningful employment and create pathways to economic independence. Now, we can measure the tools, we can measure the training, but how do we measure confidence? That's much further down in the grant blueprint. How do you measure a person that has participated in your program? How do you measure their confidence? It can be measured. That can be measured and tracked. All right? Just the grant writer's insight right there, because some people may say, how do you measure that? It is measurable. There are certain tools in which we do that. Now, going on, despite the cultural vibrancy and economic pulse of Manhattan, stark disparities remain. Notice how we're using certain language to get the reviewer's attention. In Upper Manhattan, an alarming 21% of young adults remain unemployed even after completing high school or participating in at least 3 years of post-secondary education. The Employment Readiness Project offers a responsive and engaging solution through integrated model skill building workshops. Notice what we're saying the participants go through: skill building workshops and individualized job counseling and strategic referrals to job training and internship programs. So we are letting the reviewer know automatically that our participants go through skill building workshops. They have individual job counseling, which is important with workforce development, and they have strategic referrals to job training and internship programs. So they're not just going through rote activities, but it's purpose driven in what it is, how this thing has been designed for them. And then we immediately let them know what we expect an outcome to be. We say by the end of year 1, notice the language is the font. It's bold. The size of the font is larger than the other size of the font because we want the reviewer's attention. We say by the end of year 1, our goals include teaching at least 150 participants essential job search and application skills, providing one-on-one career counseling to enhance self-confidence and job readiness, connecting a minimum of 75 participants with internships, apprenticeships, or vocational training opportunities. Now we close with this paragraph for the executive summary. And this is just an example of a short capture executive summary. Greystone Community Development, we're restating, was founded when? By who? Former IBM engineers. Who the engineers are, operates with an annual budget and a proven track record of delivering. Now, the reason we keep mentioning the budget is because we want to demonstrate that there is a need for additional funding, because $2.5 million is not a large budget for a nonprofit that's been in existence since 2018. Okay, that's not a large budget. Then the last sentence, we say to the reader, which is very important for the reviewer, we invite you to invest in a future where confidence and competence leads the way. That strong closing sentence is going to engage get the reviewer's attention, because the scoring rubric may say, did you invite the funder to fund your project? And we say, yes, we invite you to invest. That's an ask. That's a call to action, a call or request for funding. We invite you to invest in the future where confidence and competence lead the way. The one thing that's not in this sentence that some of my grant writing friends would say back to me, and that is, Kendra, but you didn't put how much you were asking for in this. And that's optional. At some point later on in the application, we may ask for an amount, but some of my grant writing friends that's been in the business for years would say, you should have added, we invite you to invest in this to the tune of $100,000, $250,000 for year one, to meet our year one goals and objectives. And that can always be edited. I'm putting that out there not only for my grant writing friends that will see this video, but give me feedback as it relates to this. So you can always, in this last sentence, add the amount your grant application is asking for. So if you're asking for $300,000, you can say, or whatever that dollar amount is, we invite you to invest in the amount of an investment of the amount of $300,000 in a future where confidence and competence lead the way to help us meet our year one goals for the Employment Readiness Project. Okay, so wanted to share that. Now, here's what we say happens in this template. This template example that we put together for you. We next invite your turn. You fill in your executive summary. So again, that's why I state, if you are not someone who writes or wants to read to write, if you want AI to do it for you, fine. Let AI do it for you, but no one can tell your story like you can. So we invite you, guide it, fill in the blanks, and you've seen this fill in the blank activity before if you've been to school. And so our program, what is the name of the program? Where is it based? And it serves who? Notice immediately. Name your program. Where's the program located? And who does it serve? Program name and location. Your statement of need. Our community faces what? According to what? Guiding you to fill in a statistic. The percentage of blank that are affected by blank. Program solution. We address this. You need to let the reviewer know that you understand what the need is, but you're also addressing it by doing what? Year one goals, measurable. By the end of the year one, we aim to do what for at least how many people? Let them know how many people you are going to serve. Your organizational credibility. Our organization was founded in what? Mention that. What is your budget? And then recall closing call to action. We invite you to support this effort by what? Go ahead and fill that in, and partnering in what? And here's where I just said you can add your dollar amount. How much are you asking the funder for? All right. Then we close in this section, as we do with all of the other sections, tips for a strong executive summary. Some say write it last after all the other sections are complete. Restate and keep it 1 to 2 pages. Open with a compelling fact or human story that draws the reader immediately. We restate that. Use plain, persuasive language. Avoid jargon or acronyms without explanation. Every claim should be specific. Names, numbers, percentages, time frames, and end with a competent call to action. All right? So that's what the first section of the grant template, master grant blueprint template looks like. And then we guide you through the next few sections talking about organizational overview and history. And again, you'll notice the flow of it. We give you a section overview. We tie it immediately to the grant writing checklist. We give you the case study to show how it's been done. Then we invite you to do it for yourself and why it looks like that. All right. So there are at least 7 to 9 sections in the master grant proposal template. Again, it's for emerging nonprofits, new startup nonprofits, or at least nonprofits that are in their first 5 years of business. We know this template works. We know that if you sit down, you and your team, and put the right time investment in writing this out to get yourself prepared to complete a grant application, it is well worth your investment. And that initial investment for this particular template is $2,250. We're still doing a couple of things. One, we're still celebrating America 250 with the $2,250 investment. downloadable. As soon as you purchase it, you can visit our Stan Store, put in the grant template. I should have had the thumbnail up for our Stan Store. I'll put that on the back end of the video, how you can access this document, and our back to school special, $2,250. And that will run through the end of August 31st. After that, I can tell you that the Master Grant Blueprint template, the price will increase because we're adding another section that has to do with your budget. And so the price is going to significantly increase after on September 1st if we don't extend the sale out through Labor Day, the Labor Day holiday. All righty. Again, your investment, if you want to get it today, again, you could visit our Stan Store, the Grant Blueprint, find us on the Stan Store, or you can go to our website and go to our digital products, download the Master Grant Blueprint template for your nonprofit. You can get started today. And we also didn't share with you that $2,250 investment comes with a 1-hour consultation that can be booked in 30-minute increments for you and your team to help you navigate the sections of the template. But again, it is writing and telling your story that you must do for your nonprofit. AI cannot do all of the work for you. It can help you, but it cannot do all of the work for you. Okay? So thank you for your time today on today's Workshop Wednesday. My name is Kendra Anderson with Advantage Grant, positioned to win. We are reliable, we are relentless, and we get results. Hope to see you back here next week for our next Workshop Wednesday. We'll take another look at another section look, and then we'll start talking about understanding your cost, designing your cost, so that you'll know how much to ask for. Because if you don't know how much to ask for, then you cannot complete a grant application. Again, thank you for the seed of your time joining us on today's Workshop Wednesday. It was phenomenal having you join.